Hi there, thank you for that. So my name is Becca Williams. I am a Wellbeing Navigator and I work at Sutton Uplift. So today I will be going through the self-care, self-compassion and relaxation workshop. Next slide. So here we have the Wellbeing Wheel, or also known as the 5 areas of self-care. So self-care is a really active and powerful choice, and it helps with stress management. So I'm going to go through each of these aspects of the self-care model and see how we can address this. So when we're looking at our physical well-being, or how to address our physical self-care, this may be exercising, eating well, going to our GP to make sure we figure out what our pains and aches are coming from. This all helps to improve our quality of life and improve our sleep pattern, and also helps us prevent developing long-term health conditions as well. So then you also have the social well-being. Social well-being is all about developing relationships, and this is about having good quality relationships over quantity of relationships, and having a good social support network. So this is about meeting up with friends and family, obviously very difficult at the moment, but making sure that you are keeping in touch with people via the internet and via phone calls. You've also got mental well-being, or mental self-care. So this is about keeping your brain stimulated, and this can be through many things. This could be picking up new hobbies or interests, or doing something you enjoy. Might be watching a documentary, anything at all. And this all helps to boost our self-esteem and confidence as well, and also keeping our mental health in check and being intellectually stimulated. It can be great for reducing the chances of developing Alzheimer's and other mental health conditions as well. Then you also have our emotional self-care, and that's about speaking to other people and reducing the feelings associated with stress and reducing that risk of mental health stress. So for example of that might actually just be coming to wellbeing, might be coming to Sutton, Merton or Wandsworth for some one-to-one wellbeing support, just to talk things through and identify some practical wellbeing goals. And then lastly, you've also got spiritual well-being, and that's not necessarily religious, although it can mean like that for some people, but it's mainly having meaning and purpose in life and being connected to something. Next slide, please. Okay, so here we have how we can break the stress cycle with self-care. As when we're stressed, as we've talked about a little bit earlier in our other workshops, this can induce the fight or flight mechanism, which can release hormones, and an example of a hormone is cortisol, and this can cause many different things, such as vulnerability to illnesses, physical and emotional exhaustion, headaches, high blood pressure, nausea, indigestion, disturbed sleep, weight problems and depression. So this is how we see how our mind really interacts with our body here, and we call it psychosomatic problems. So self-care helps to just break this negative cycle and helps to reduce stress, as we saw with the stress bucket earlier. Next slide, please. So now this relates into our next slide about compassion. So the reason why we look at a little bit about compassion here is if we have a better understanding of compassion, this helps us to better look after ourselves. So compassion literally means to suffer together, and it's a feeling that arises when you're confronted with another suffering and want to relieve it. And it's known as a natural instinct, although it does compete with other instincts, and it can be trained and developed. So connotations of compassion include kindness, humanity, sensitivity, warmth and understanding, and a lot of us will be very good at showing that to other people. Next slide, please. So this is a chance to think about how we can direct compassion more at ourselves. So what I would like you to do is to just, for now, think about a friend, and if a friend is feeling bad, how would you normally treat that friend? And a lot of people would find that you would normally treat them with support, with care. You'd want to talk to them, ask them to open up. And then I want you to think about how you treat yourself when you feel bad, and see if you notice any different here. What we're trying to do here is trying to train ourselves to show ourselves the same compassion that we would show a friend. So it's also helping to reduce that critical voice that we have, or that poisonous parrot. That parrot that sits on our shoulder and whispers harsh, critical thoughts in our ear and brings us down, really. So basically the idea of this is try and treat yourself as if you would treat a friend. Next slide, please. So this slide is just trying to look at some of the myths that might surround self-compassion. We've got the first one here saying self-compassion is to be kind to oneself. Self-compassion is not self-pity. So self-compassion is basically just learning to accept yourself and to give yourself a bit of a break when you are having a hard time and thinking about how you can comfort and care for yourself in this moment. The next bit, you've got self-compassion is facing failures, insecurities and mistakes. So try not to see failures as failures, perhaps, and see them more as learning curves. Think about, what did I learn from that experience? And it's not about self-indulgence. Some people worry about showing themselves self-compassion because they think it might verge into them becoming self-indulgent. But self-compassionate people tend to have that balance of being able to show compassion towards themselves and compassion towards others. So it's not becoming self-indulgent. Okay, and then on the last bit, self-compassion is understanding we are deserving of care and not to be constantly judged, because we are human and we all have needs, and those needs need to be met. And if we deny ourselves that, then that can where mental health problems can come in, depression, anxiety. Self-compassion is not self-esteem. Self-esteem is more related to confidence as well, but it can take a confident person to be self-compassionate sometimes, to stand back and say, actually right now I need to look after myself and make sure that I'm okay. A good analogy here is perhaps the oxygen mask analogy, where you put your own oxygen mask on before you help others. It's the idea we need to make sure we're okay in order to give a good quality of care to other people. Okay, next slide please. So here we've got some relaxation techniques. Now, relaxation is a great way of showing self-care, and these are techniques that help when you're feeling overwhelmed, very anxious or dissociated from environment. We're going to go through them in a bit more depth in a minute, but here you can see breathing techniques. This might be deeply inhaling, holding for 3 seconds and then exhaling and repeating this over a period of time. I mean, I actually did this one just before I came onto the summit as I was feeling a bit nervous about having to speak to people, and just getting my breathing in check has just helped me able to calm my nerves. And you've also got grounding techniques, which we'll look at on in a minute, which helps to focus on the present moment. And then you've also got progressive muscular relaxation, as when we're getting stressed, our muscles tend to tighten up. And just by learning to relax our muscles, this helps our body to learn to dissipate stress, and also reduces chance of developing chronic conditions or chronic pain. And you really need to practice these relaxation techniques before they become effective. Next slide, please. So here we have the breathing techniques that we just briefly went through, and this would be just finding a quiet space to pay full attention to your breathing and just focus purely on breathing and nothing else. There are some good YouTube links as well about breathing techniques if you do feel like you need someone to guide you, and these things that can be done during your lunch breaks or at the end of the work or before work, whenever you feel like it's most good for you. As you can see here on the right, you've got Distress Monday. So perhaps on a Monday, if you feel particularly stressed, that might be a good time to try some breathing techniques.